Live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Big show for you tonight. Lots of good stuff, so everyone stay tuned. It's going to be interesting. It's funny how that intro song is like just as, even though we hardly talk about that stuff anymore, like totalitarianism, all that. It's like, it just becomes more and more relevant. And I made that, 8 years ago or something?
Yeah.
Been using that forever. And then like half the time we roll that intro and we talk about models and sports. But, it's still, but the wider world around us is still like, oh, we're still in this mode, or we're heading this way. Are we burning books? Are we living in a police state? Will we? Who knows? It was nice, though, this week that the Army did, one of the generals clarified, like, if there's a dispute in the election, we're not going to be involved. It's like, I'm glad they had to come out and clarify it. Like, this is some kind of banana republic. Where that has to be explained to everyone. In case you're getting your hopes up or etc., we're not going to be getting involved. So that was encouraging. I forget who said it. I just read that in a blurb in the journal, and I was like, oh boy, actually having to say this out loud.
Just to reassure the American public.
Yeah, and just that, all it is like empty assurance. It's like, it's not going to get this bad. Don't lose any sleep. Everything's in hand. So we had the RNC convention this week. Were you glued to that every night?
No.
I didn't miss much. It was typical.
The only thing I want to know is, what's the MAGA hat kid? What did he have to say?
Basically just empty, just how much the media screwed him, and that they're screwing all of us, and that, I'm just synopsizing it quickly.
Okay. Because, what I was wondering is, because that's like Joe Rogan's favorite story to tell on his fucking podcast.
Yeah.
It's like how they intentionally misrepresented that situation for the, it's like, yes, there is that. But I was just wondering, it's like, I wonder how far this kid went to dispel what we thought of him.
Well, he's speaking at the RNC.
Or did he just turn into exactly what we thought it was? Even though it was posed to be that way and it wasn't really what happened. He just became what we thought he was anyways.
Well, that's what happens when kids are thrust into the public spotlight and then, a year later given, $500 million in a settlement. It's like, they start to move in strange ways. Like, hey, I'm important now. Someone gave me a bunch of money. It's like, no, not really. This is the problem Trump had, is he thought he was important too. I have ideas. I have money. So therefore I'm smart, right? Well, no, you're putting the lie to that right now. But so, I will say I think this kid got screwed, but I don't know, what's it going to become? Like you said, is he just going to prove that, oh, maybe they should have fucked him? Maybe he was really an asshole. That's all after the fact. But someone who was going to a private Catholic school like that and bringing a bunch of kids up there to protest abortion bills or whatever, that's kind of a weird activity for your teenagers anyway. So I'm sure that, this kid was probably.
And wearing a MAGA hat, but saying it's not a political statement. It's like, we just did it because we're goofing around.
That's kind of weird. There's other ways to goof around.
Because that's what really plugged in teenagers do. They just goof around with political ideology they don't agree with.
Yeah, I know that's what I did when I was a teenager. Actually, I did, but I always was adopting like weird stances. Like, hey, let's give communism a chance. Like, do you really believe that? No, but no one else is saying it. That's what I'm doing. But I didn't run around cheering for George Bush either. And I mean George Bush the elder, who was president when I was a teenager. So,
H dubs.
New World Order Bush. It was made into a Ministry song,
Yep.
which is basically just a bunch of sound clips and noise. But it was cool at the time.
Oh yeah, that was.
That was edgy.
Is that my favorite Ministry song? It's up there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones though.
It's a lot of good ministry from that era. So it was off the Psalm 69 album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is that entire album is great. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the. Yeah, there's 3 of their albums I really like, and the rest of them I just kind of. Oh, this is sort of nostalgic. I mean, we've talked about. We read the Alan Jorgensen biography. So
Yeah.
we've talked about ministry a lot on this show. But yeah. Anyway, that's not what I. Oh, anyway, yeah. Back to the RNC and the weird speakers. I mean, it was nothing stand out. Like I was hoping when I heard they were going to have like the MAGA hat kid and the people that were pointing guns at people from their mansion. It's like, oh, these people are going to be crazy. This is going to be wild. No, it was just kind of lame and weird. And then they had the first night, they had it like it was Trump talking to nurses and people, like he was trying to be personable with people, which he did a great job of, by the way. No, he didn't.
I was like, oh, he performed for the cameras.
Like, no, he didn't even.
He didn't even do that.
Well, it came off as stilted because he doesn't give a fuck about people or what they think. I mean, it's obvious. But my son Grayson was walking through to get something to eat, and he's like, "Is this an SNL skit?" It's like, no, this is real. This is actually what they're doing. Like, oh, I thought this was like Saturday Night Live. It's like, man, they got Trump nailed. It's like, no, that's really him. But of course, he went the Nixon route, which that was law and order. We're going to bring order back to America. But it wasn't even as clever as the Nixon stuff because it was just transparently, I mean, it's fear based. It's all that stuff. But nothing really crazy. I was hoping for like pure insanity, and it didn't really happen.
I want some network stuff to happen.
Yeah, we're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore. And then everyone shoots themselves. It's like, well, problem solution. But that didn't happen. So it was kind of a disappointment at the end of the day. It wasn't, but I wasn't expecting to be, entertained or enjoy it. I was just hoping it's like, oh, they're going to bring the crazy out this year. It's going to be nuts. They're going to be singing songs. And like I said, eagles are going to be flying out everyone's ass. It's going to be so patriotic. You're just going to vomit the red, white, and blue. And yeah, I did. I mean, they did that stuff, but it wasn't like as gaudy as I hoped it would be. They're going to bring out a bunch of soldiers and talk about how they love them and then quickly vote to cut all their benefits, and it's like, yeah, I love that about the Republicans. You're the pride of America. And then they go sign bills. It's like, just cut them off from everything. It's like, yeah, we love our soldiers when they're actively killing people on behalf of, oil companies. But once we're done with them, it's like, hey, it's responsibility, free market. You take your, fake limbs and go make a living. So, but yeah, it wasn't as flamboyant and bizarre as I'd hoping it would be. Melania Trump gave a speech. Still sounds like she has a mouthful of marbles when she talks. Living in this country for 20 plus years. Still can't barely understand.
He doesn't let her talk to anybody, so she has really.
She doesn't have to speak. He speaks for her.
I was listening to a podcast. Speaking of, well, we weren't speaking of it, but you mentioned an SNL skit.
Yeah.
Or this being an SNL skit, and I discovered a lost SNL skit listening to a podcast. And I'm going to describe the skit, and it'll sound funny, but you'll have to kind of like pull it back because like the skit is actually like very oddly paced and slow, and like the jokes don't necessarily work. But like when you explain the idea, it's funny. And it was the early days where in the 90s, so Chris Farley was there. And the whole idea is that, and this is after John Malkovich was played Lenny in Mice of Men, that the 90s one they made.
Okay, I remember that one.
Which that's a whole weird story, because that's a podcast I was listening to. They were talking about that movie, and it was like, and they talk about like Gary Sinise. He directed that movie,
Oh, okay.
and the reason he directed it is because, you know, he's a part of that Steppenwolf theater, which had John Malkovich and a bunch of other people in it, and kind of like a bunch of people from that group like ended up being famous, but like Gary Sinise did it, and he was just like the creative director for Steppenwolf. And he had some relationship with the Steinbeck family, so that's why he got to make the movie, because he had their permission to make it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And so after he directed that movie, like that's, and he stars in that movie too, I think, right?
Yeah, he's the one of the protagonists.
And so that's what got him the gig for Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, was that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he wasn't even really expected to be an actor. Just like these kind of things, like this directing job fell in his lap, and then that role fell in his lap, and then he got to be like a Hollywood actor.
And then he expressed himself politically and got excised from Hollywood.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's kind of like one of those. I don't want to misquote this, but how like those Bruce Willis right wingers. It's like one of the guys that's not like a crazy dyed in the wool, but he's like, you know, I have opinions that are different than, you know, what Hollywood wants to hear. So I don't get to work anymore.
Well, the way they're talking about the podcast, they were talking about is like he's a good guy, but like he does a lot of charity for like Wounded Warrior stuff.
Yeah, he does do stuff like that.
But he only did that because after like playing the character Lieutenant Dan, he kind of felt sorry because like he wasn't a veteran himself, but he felt like an obligation to like work for veterans after doing that role.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean he's still pretty much a good guy, but he's definitely like classified as one of those. He's not like John Voight, like that kind of a rabid right winger, but he's definitely like not a. He doesn't like go with what mainstream Hollywood would believe. He's like, I have my. But when you get involved with,
is he like that Sam Raimi kind of right winger where it's like the independent guy is like, I just want to make movies and there's all these steps in the way, and like that's why I hate government.
I don't know if it's that. I think it was him doing. When you get involved with a lot of like veterans aid groups and stuff, you just start meeting a lot of right wing people.
Yeah,
it starts to influence. Kind of like it happened to Mike Rowe. You know, when the Dirty Jobs guy, he sort of like moved to the right a little bit, and then everyone realized, oh, he doesn't really know what he's saying, because he was like, well, Obama destroyed the trades in this country. It's like, no, Obama had nothing. They sort of backpedaled on that. I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but
anyways, that's SNL skit. It got cut from a performance, and it was a John Malkovich hosting session, and the idea is that this is back when Michael Eisner owned Disney. And the idea is that Disney got a hold of a Mice and Men, and like they put it through like a research group, and they decided that they didn't like I can't remember the main guy, the guy who has to shoot Lenny.
Yeah.
But so they decided that audiences love Lenny, so they're gonna get rid of the main character, and they're gonna have two Lennys being on Mice and Men, and that's what that's gonna be. And so it's John Malkovich as Lenny, and it's Chris Farley as Lenny, and they're just like snapping necks of like all these like toy puppies and like trying to find places to bury it in the farm.
Oh God.
And then like they accidentally like kill like two sisters that are like getting like you know like flirting with them, and like they just hide them in the barn, and then the sketch kind of ends, and then John Malkovich's like, hey, she's not breathing. Chris, you killed her. Like they're kind of like off character now. It's like supposed to be real. And then he's like, oh my God. And then like, fucking what's his name? Who runs SNL?
Oh, I figured out who the character's name was. It's George.
Yeah, George.
Okay.
So yeah, got rid of George and you add two Lennys.
Yeah.
But who's the guy who runs SNL?
Oh, what's his name? The guy from Canada.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
Oh, what is it? Lorne Michaels.
Yeah, so Lorne Michaels comes out and he's like, And he basically like says to John Malkovich like, "Hey, it's okay, we'll take care of it." And then Chris Farley's all he's all like crestfallen. It's like, "What are we gonna do, Lauren? Can I still be in your movies?" Like, yes, Chris, you're gonna be in our movies. And then he just shoots Chris Farley in the head.
But you say to actually see this, the pacing is all fucked
Yeah,
up.
it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
But when you explain it, it's like, it sounds amazing. It's one of those lost skits that like we never got to see. But like, no, it doesn't work. But you can see why it got made, like, because that's funny.
Yeah, that does sound pretty funny. Always remember Lorne Michaels is like Mark Maron's favorite guy. Did they ever make up?
Well, yeah, they interviewed. He had an interview with
You
him.
did an interview with him? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was like one-sided. Like Lorne Michaels didn't have any problem with Mark Maron, and he was just kind of out of sight. But like Mark Maron is just seething throughout the years because like he just interviews people, and it's like, "Hey, did you ever cross Lorne Michaels?" Like, I don't know why that guy never picked me, but
And Lorne Michaels just shows up for an interview. It's like, I had no idea I caused this much anger.
yeah, like it's Mark Maron overthinking it, and like, you know, there's like the candy bowl on the table. And it's like, is this a test? Like, what is this? Did I fail the test?
I'm not supposed to take candy. Oh, fuck, man. Well, that's just Mark Maron on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bad comedy gig will spiral into like 5 years of self-destructive introspection. Like, this is amazing. Whose mind works like this? There's no such thing as shake it off. It's just not be analyzed.
I have to use this new anger.
Yeah, and he like turned it into a thing. You know, it's like a signature part of his personality. I don't even know if he really feels that way. I think he does, but
Yeah, or at least he just actually has those thoughts. It's just how he acts on them.
yeah.
And he's just like, well, I have this thought. I better put it in the show. And then that's what people think he is. It's just extreme
They're just
narcissistic,
neurotic,
introspective.
person.
Yeah.
Why are they fucking me? It's like, they don't know who you are. Yeah.
So F1's back this week.
Okay. What race is coming up?
This is the Belgian Grand Prix
Okay.
at Spa. That's
All
the name
right.
of the track, which is one of the most cinematic tracks in the world.
Oh, is that the one that they pick when they shoot movies about racing in Europe?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. There's a couple corners, but the bottom of it's called Eau Rouge, and the top of it's called Rodelion.
Okay.
But like everyone refers it to it as Eau Rouge because that's just kind of cool to say. And it's this sloping curve that goes like it goes steep uphill, and like wherever you put a camera, just you point a camera at it and it just looks cool and cinematic.
Oh, okay.
That's also like a podcast I was listening to. They're talking about like, 'cause it's like in the middle of the woods in Belgium, and it's where the Battle of the Bulge took place.
Oh, nice. Okay. Way to
So,
commemorate that.
yeah. Or at least it just took place in those woods. I don't know how big those woods are. They could be huge. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like last.
Slated to win.
What's that?
Who's slated to win?
Well, it's pretty close. I mean, it's another Mercedes 1-2. So.
Yeah.
And Max Verstappen's in third place, but he's only off by 1/100th of a second from Bottas.
Okay.
And then you got behind him, you got Daniel Ricciardo in a Renault, like in fourth place, or P4. So like that goes pretty good for Renault. Yeah, Renault has kind of been making some pretty good strides lately. It'd be interesting if they can finish in like the top 5, because the Racing Points kind of fell off in this. I mean, they're still like top 5, 6, but they were getting up there to the podiums earlier. But I don't know. But it was like really, really close. Like there's like a second between like Lewis Hamilton and like the rest of the field.
Okay.
So like the worst guy and the best guy, it's like they're just a second off.
That'd be interesting then.
Yeah, and also 50% chance it might rain.
Yeah, that's when it gets fun.
And Spa is like one of the fastest tracks that they have. It's like you almost never have to tap the brakes. It's just full on, just lots of fast turns.
That's cool.
So,
It's wet.
and then there's been a lot of tributes this week because this is where the F2 driver died last year, Antoine Hubert.
Oh, okay.
So there's been a lot of mournful stuff around that. And I guess like oddly related, I don't know, because Lewis Hamilton, like he did after he got pole position, he did a Wakanda salute because Chadwick Boseman died.
Yeah, that was when I heard about that, I was like, "What?
Yeah,
Like younger than me?"
yeah, I was like weirdly affected by that because like I just felt like that guy was just starting his career, and then like
Yeah, and he had a cool character, and he did a good job with it. And it's like, oh, this guy's gonna be in the Marvel universe, and then now he's dead. And apparently, this was some long
4 years.
drawn-out fight against this, and it's like, ugh,
Yeah,
that's awful. And weird because of everything that's going on in this country right now. Like Black Panther dies. It's like, what the hell?
yeah.
2020. Like, can't get any
It's
strange.
Kobe Bryant and Chadwick Boseman, like two prominent black people, died, but for different reasons,
Yeah, yeah,
unrelated reasons too.
yeah. No, nothing. No conspiracies here. Yeah, that was sad when I heard that. Because I heard it like yesterday or the day before. I forget, but I was like, oh, that's an internet, you know.
That's
Oh,
what I thought.
It's like, yeah, always the
It's like
famous.
it's like every chat room says R.I.P. Joe Rogan. Like,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
did he really die? Like, no, just people playing a joke.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I was like, that guy's in his mid-30s or something. It's like,
He was
oh,
43. I thought he was younger than that, but still,
Yeah.
that's not old. So
yeah, that's younger than it's 3 years younger than me. So yeah, that's that was sad. Oh no, I didn't have anything else.
but yeah, I think that's F1. I think I would suggest watching that one. That one almost has to be better than the Hungry.
My computer's already queued up to remind me as
Okay.
soon as I turn it on, because there's the station or the whatever channel I watch it on. Like this, it's like they don't run commercials.
Yeah, you probably are you just like streaming it through the
Yeah.
internet? Okay, yeah, so that's probably the ESPN app or whatever it does it.
Yeah,
Because they don't do commercials for that.
because I actually signed into ESPN to watch. It's like this is the best way to watch these. Like, oh, okay, now I have an ESPN account, which I never had before because I don't know anything about sports. And with sports I watched were the one my son played in. So, and I still don't understand that game.
Football.
Well, I mean, I understand the big moves, but not the nuanced things.
Oh no. Yeah, the only reason I like knew things about football is playing the Madden video games. Then you kind of like have to know shit. But even then,
Speaking of which, my son got the new Madden. And he
I
was
hear-
showing me
I
the
hear-
Washington
I hear-
football team.
what's that?
He was showing me the Washington football teams. Like, see,
Oh.
they changed it. I was like, yeah, they did.
Yeah, I haven't gotten Madden in a really long time.
He gets them every year
Yeah.
just so he can take the Lions to the Super Bowl. It's like, this is the only thing that happens. So, like, yeah, you're right.
Hell, if they have a season this year, like they got a chance.
Yeah, anyone does. It's a weird year. This would be the year that Detroit Lions win the Super Bowl. if any year would be the year, this would be it. And the stadium would collapse, or something. It's just always what's going to happen next.
As far as I know, with the football season, there's already people like, yeah, I'm not playing this year.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's People, how many people get infected at training camp, and it's rampant.
Well, yeah, because it's going to be on later this year, so I don't think they have any plans to like. They're not going to do like a bubble or no crowd stuff. Like I think they plan on having like limited crowds.
Yeah.
But AEW had its first limited crowd TV show.
How'd that go for them?
I'm pretty well as far as I know. It was 10% capacity. It was paid fans. Because they've been having people in the stands before, but it was kind of like invited guests.
Yeah.
But this is the first time they had paying fans for a live event for like 5 months or something.
Wow, that's incredible.
So yeah, it was a.
I know the government's backboarding a lot of that, but still, it's like I just
Yeah.
wonder how much of this stuff is going to be left.
Well, I mean, with WWE, they just did the whole Thunderdome thing. Have you seen any of that stuff yet?
No,
Without-
I haven't.
Okay.
Uh-uh.
It's been doing really good for them in the ratings, so like at least they tried something. So it seems interesting now. I don't trust it because you never trust WWE because they fuck up things so well. But some of that stuff seems interesting. I mean, it looks better. It looks more interesting. The fake crowd noise, like I pick it out too much, and it's kind of like hard to watch it because I just know it's like, oh, here's the looping crowd noise.
Yeah.
But it looks cool, so there's that. But the storylines have been like atrocious. But they the last episode, like they did a couple things that seems promising.
Yeah.
But they'll probably fuck it up. But we'll see. So what happens when a 7-year-old man tries to write a show for teenagers?
What could go wrong? Well, it's yeah, but you never know which way things are going either. It's like I went and picked up my I'd ordered some models for my shutdown, so I wanted to make sure I got the ones, and you have to order them and pick them up. You can't just go find them. And I was asking John how's business, and he goes, well, ever since the enhanced employment went away, I'm not seeing a lot of customers like I used to. It's like, uh-oh. It's like how long before that starts to take root? Because for a long time there, like when they opened back up and you just ordered it and did curbside pickup, they're busy as hell.
Yeah.
They couldn't get it out, because people were just bored sitting at home. It's like, yeah, let's build models. But now it's like, well, we're not getting the extra bucks. So, all that traffic's gone away, or at least some of it has. I don't know anyone that's still off work. I don't know of anyone around here of the people I know, of the 10 people I know. Like, I don't know. But I guess like in places where there's a lot of like service stuff, I know that's really bad. Because it's like Disney and stuff open, like Disney World, Disneyland.
I believe so.
Okay.
Because I've heard stories about how basically people aren't following the rules, and they had stuff where like you can't, because basically they have rules like the only time you can have a mask off is if like you're eating or drinking something. So people were just like grabbing food and drinks and just going around the park
Just
all day,
holding-
no mask.
Yeah, just holding a drink. Yeah.
And then they made a rule that like you couldn't walk, eat and drink at the same time, like so to try to combat that, which was kind of funny because in the Facebook feed it's just a bunch of stuff about the military, because at least that's the thing in the Marine Corps. It's like you can never be eating or drinking or be on the phone and walking at the same time.
Huh.
Because like, what if an officer comes by and you have to salute them and you got shit in your mouth or you got a water bottle in your hand? Like it's that reason. But it's also there's also probably some weird, it's like, hey, this many people choke on a pretzel this year, and it's like, so if we institute this rule, like, we're saving 3 lives every 10 years.
Well, it's like the backup cameras they put on cars. They said like, oh, children were getting run over by people backing up their cars, and it's like, yeah, that sounds terrible. I just thought there was like some Phnom Penh killing field of children that have been run over by cars. It was like 8 kids a year get run over like that, and it's like, oh yeah, let's put a $1,200 backup sensor system and mandate it in almost every car sold. It's like, this is why things get really expensive. Not that I think that 12 kids should die or anything, but it's like, when I hear like the government mandates like safety features, expensive ones in automobiles,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, there must be like thousands of lives must be on the line or something. It's like, no, just one person with a compelling story.
I've been meaning to put the backup camera in my car, but it's just too much work.
It's too hot.
Nah, I don't really care about that, but
Oh, I do. I don't do anything if I can help it. When
but
it's
now I
hot.
feel like doing it because like every time I back up out of the garage, like I'm looking around, it's like all right, no one's there, and then as soon as I start moving, it's like there's like 40 grandmas just come around to like sit up behind my car. It's like what the fuck is going on?
Am I being attacked?
I know we're out of power. Like I was like backing out of the driveway, and I had to park to like do something to like I was like putting my phone like hooking up my phone to my car to like play on the radio, and some lady thought I was somebody else and just opened up the car door and was like, it's like, is this charging? And I was like, yeah. It's like, oh, you're not Susie or whatever. It's like, no. That was weird.
It's a weird question. Is this charging? The frogs chirp at midnight.
Well,
You
you know, she didn't have power in her house, so she, thought I was like one of her friends charging their phone with their computer.
oh, okay.
And she's like, I want to charge my phone too.
Yeah, we went without power for 5 hours yesterday. Because when that usually doesn't happen here, it hasn't happened in a long time, and probably more than a decade. And because we had these weird monsoon rains yesterday, we had 1.5 inches of rain in a 12-hour period. But what it would do is it would rain so hard, like you couldn't drive, like you couldn't see,
Yeah.
and then it would just abruptly stop, like someone turned off a switch. It was really weird. And then we got this crazy rain with like 50-mile-an-hour wind shears, and that's what knocked the power out.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? And I was watching on the news, and like nobody knows what happened. It's like we just got a lot of rain very quickly, and because it was looking to be a dry August, but not now. So it was really crazy rain, because it's crazy when the rain is like coming sideways.
Yeah.
That's like really strange.
Yeah, that's what happened at the derecho.
Oh, is it sideways rain?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it was like 50 to 100-mile-an-hour wind and rain, all
Yeah,
going in one direction.
What was because Detroit flooded, of course. Like there were cars like it was up to their doors, and then the craziest thing that happened was like those covers at gas stations where you pump gas.
Yeah.
One of those just got lifted up and thrown into a parking lot and like destroyed 10 cars or something. Like, and there's a security camera video of this thing just lifts up and blows it through. But nobody died or anything. And like I couldn't get gas yesterday because there was no power anywhere. And you can't use, because around here everything's like credit card. Like you don't pay.
Yeah.
A lot of places is like we don't take cash anymore. We haven't taken checks 20 years. So. And then today I go to get stuff because that's supply getting day is usually Friday. Well, there's no supplies that Friday. And then today, like I go to Walmart, the power's out. I go to a few other places, big places, no power. So I ended up going to Myers, which that's like going into the Twilight Zone to shop. And that was
Yeah. Hey, you experienced what it was like when the derecho happened.
yeah, but it didn't last
Yeah.
very long
Yeah,
here.
the last 3. Oh, I listened to some lady today. She just got power back today.
Jesus,
It's like 3 weeks without power. Jesus, fucking.
that's nuts.
Yeah,
was getting ready to-
yeah. And if you wanted, I had to drive to Iowa City to get gas because
Yeah.
none of the gas stations here worked.
Yeah, we had. I told Grayson, I said, if this goes on much longer, we're going to have to go to Tractor Supply and get a manual pump for the basement.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just going to set up a cot down there, and you can just every 50. And because it's actually, if it goes more than a day, my basement will flood. Like it's we're not made to run without power here,
Yeah.
unless it's the dry season. Then it won't be a problem. But
Yeah, we got lucky here. We didn't have any because the sump pump wasn't, or whatever that pump is in the basement, it wasn't on
It's
for
a sump pump.
sump pump. Wasn't
Yeah.
on for like 3 days, and we saw like our neighbors around here where you could see where like they had to tear up like all the carpet and like throw it out.
yeah.
But Ours is okay. So
Yeah, you can get hand pumps to do it, but you realize what an ingenious invention of powered mechanical pump was, because you'd be amazed how much water, because mine runs like a champ, like all the time. This area was never graded right. So I'm always getting, and Michigan's one of those states where you dig down, you're always going to find cisterns of water and stuff here. So there's plenty of water. But yeah, I'm going to have to go look at that after the podcast. See what we got down there. Because I've heard it running, but see if there's an inch of water in my basement, which wouldn't affect nothing because everything's been put up from the last time it's flooded. So
yeah,
so
don't you get like stuff on pallets down there?
yeah, I got everything's on risers. I spent $13,000 to have that basement finished, and it was a total fucking loss. And it wasn't because if the sump pump failed, the insurance company would have covered it, but because the water leaked through the walls, it's like, oh, we don't. That's groundwater. You have to have flood insurance for that. It's like, oh, okay. So that's when we dropped that insurance company like a hot rock. But yeah, I was out $13,000. We had to rip all the carpet up, all the drywall, everything. I was like, I'm never fucking finishing a basement again in my life. And then we had to have guys come in and dig around the house and put pea gravel in and then reinforce the basement with they use the stuff they use in the New York City subways to stop water, where they drill giant holes in your wall and they shoot high pressure epoxy in there. So basically around the outside of my house, if you dug down into the ground, it looks like a hot glue gun, but it's perfectly flat. It's like a weird mound of this shit all shot throughout the basement. But
It was a podcast listener, and they're talking about like the kind of drainage they have in their basements, and like they live in New Jersey, and like what's it? It's called like a French something, and it's basically like all the edges of the basement is like a drain, and then there's like gravel like on top of it.
Oh, okay.
But the whole basement is a drain essentially.
Yeah. I've heard of that.
But I didn't know if that was like an East Coast thing or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be. Yeah, that's called that's exactly what you said. It is a French drain.
Okay.
You can do the water guard stuff. That's what I have. Is there's a bunch of basically field tiles running like ribs underneath my house, and the water runs into those. There's like an open slit in those, and the water runs in. The sump pump pumps it out. Otherwise, the basement is just filled with water because. We're not like a below the water table in that basement. I don't know why it does, because all the houses around here have that problem. Because when the recession was on, people just abandoned their houses, man. You'd see like fucking water coming out of their basement windows. Like, oh, somebody turned the power off.
I had weird leaking issues in the other house where there'd be like, you have like that little like storm window.
Yeah.
And like every once in a while, if like it rained really hard, it would just fill up with water.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then like slowly drain through like the frame of the window.
Yeah.
It's like, that's fucked up.
You could probably take a cement drill and fix that problem by drilling a weep hole somewhere in it. But
yeah. But like it only happened like once a year.
Yeah, it's very particular circumstances.
And then there was like sometimes where just like the walls would just bleed with water.
Yeah.
Again, a hard rain, but like not every hard rain did it. Only like a specific one. It was fucking weird. And then there's like just like cracks in the floor where every once in a while, just water would come up out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of weird shit going on the earth. Like you get up into like mid and northern Michigan, you run into radon problems that are so frightening. Like whole families have been killed by radon because there's stuff shifting down there all the time, and a lot of those houses are older, and yeah, people live there like 100 years, and then you just like one morning the whole family like, hey, they didn't come to church, and someone knocks on the door and they're all dead because the fucking just had a radon. So everyone had. I think it's a law up there because I don't have a radon detector in my house because it just costs money. and I assume I'm not dead yet. So, but yeah, that's a thing. And then the older furnaces.
Well, I can't remember. There's like I think like yeah, they that was like a new thing that was like, hey, you should be afraid of this because it can totally happen. But I heard like a ceiling fan will like just disperse the radon in a way that's like, yeah, just put a ceiling fan, you're fine.
Yeah. It's new construction. It's rarely a problem because there's a lot of concrete's a lot tighter now. Your houses are sealed more. Yeah, it's something that's like it's a danger. I mean, it's more of a slow death. But sometimes you get pockets of it. It can just kill everyone. But mainly they'll give you lung cancer.
Yeah.
Things happen where it's just kill everyone in the house, where it's like a big pocket of it. And then you'll have the houses where they have the furnaces from like the turn of the last century. And then the house fills with carbon monoxide. And it's like, oh, Jesus. You know, you had the furnace that sounded like a V2 rocket firing up downstairs. You think, you think got to replace that? You know, that might create a problem. When your house shakes when your furnace turns on, it's probably time to have somebody service that. Because when I have the guy out to work on my furnace every couple of years, and we get to talking, it's like, what's the oldest shit you've ever worked on? It's like, oh, stuff that says Westinghouse on it. You know, this is like shit from the 20s and 30s. It's like, if you can still have those. It's like, well, if you live in the house, yeah, but if you go to sell it, the code says you have to replace those. Like, I didn't know those still ran. It's like, oh yeah, those things will run forever. It's like they're dangerous as hell and really inefficient, but they'll run.
Yeah, I've been listening to podcasts where it was the Giant Bomb podcast, so they have one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast, and there's been various talks of like different building codes for the area, because there's like stuff in New York City, like I believe in New York City you just get free heating because it's all steam just like piped in through the city.
Yeah.
But then it gets so hot that people like in the wintertime just have their windows open.
Yeah, it's not really like very metered.
Or sometimes like you'll have a pipe in the bathroom that's just like unwrapped because like it radiates enough heat to like heat the bathroom, but it's just an open pipe. There's no insulation on it. Just
yeah, don't touch that pipe. That's the hot pipe. Clean it with that tape. It says hot pipe.
And then like one guy was talking about in New Jersey it's not on the New York like steam thing, but he still has like a steam driven like heating system in his house.
Oh yeah, they're around. It's hot boiler systems, yeah.
And then he has
baseboard.
And then he has central air, but then like a lot of people in California they're talking about like California, one, they don't really have basements, and also two, like nobody gets air conditioning. At least not in the Bay Area, not in Southern California, because the weather is predictable enough that you just don't really need it. It's like, yeah, just open a window. Like you don't really need air conditioning. But
yeah, I mean, there's a reason people live in certain parts of California, because it's the only place in the world that has a Mediterranean climate outside of the Mediterranean. Like that's the only other place in the world that's like that. But it's also in the midst of the Ring of Fire, and also about 43 million more people there than they need, which creates a lot of problems.
But yeah, so like they don't have. Well, but yeah, it's a problem right now because now people have to like lock down their houses because of all the fires are just like making the air quality terrible, and then like so you got to close all the windows, make everything just sealed up, and you don't have air conditioning in your house.
Yeah, and it's like 100 degrees outside.
The fires is not making things better.
Well, that's why that's why a lot of people are leaving.
Yeah,
they're tired of it, and they're tired of the. What were they? I was at the Joe Rogan podcast, as a matter of fact, the last ones we can ever hear. They will. They were talking about how if like California increases their income tax and the other taxes they want to, if you throw that in with federal tax, you're like at a 50% income tax bracket because of all the taxes you're paying. It's like, oh yeah, you're right away 50% of your income's gone between federal and state. It's like, and it costs a fucking fortune to live there. It's like, oh, I'm done. I'm out of here. Good luck, Gavin. But that state's been long overdue to depopulate. There's just too many people. It's not. It's just a desert. They pump water in from the Colorado to keep green.
Well,
it's like, yeah, this isn't.
Well, that's the Los Angeles area, like, because like Northern California is like almost a completely different state, but that's also
Well, yeah,
that's also nobody lives there. But
yeah, it's nice because nobody's there. Yeah, I've seen those like Northern California towns where they'll shoot like TV shows that are supposed to be set in the Midwest because they just look like towns that are anywhere.
yeah,
Because there's little, except there's mountains in the background. Like that's the only difference. And it's a lot hotter. But yeah, that's funny when they do that. Because it's really hard to make Los Angeles look like ill. So just go to a little further up north.
yeah. It was like in California they have the house numbers like painted on the curbs.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I remember because they shot in California. It's like Indiana doesn't have that stuff on the curbs. Like this has to be California.
Yeah. They started doing that around here because they did that to our house and a few others.
Oh yeah,
But then they figured out, okay, that paint doesn't last. And that's like the city like doing that. It's like, oh, we're not paying for this. So now we have like partial numbers that the water and the snow is just eroded away. But yeah, they started painting the street numbers on the curb.
yeah. It's like something like if you have a predictable climate all year round, like you can do stuff like that.
Yeah, they repainted them twice, and then because they had a machine, a guy just came around and he just changed the things out like, brrr, and they were black, or there was black background with white numbers. And yeah, they only did it 2 years, and then now they've all rubbed away pretty much. You can still see like an echo. It's a good weathering thing. I'll take pictures of it. It's like, how can I weather my models to look like those old street? Because I guess it's some law like you have to have numbers on your house. Or at least on your mailbox, whatever, and people were doing none of that.
Yeah,
So just, I don't know why, because I always replace the numbers on the front of my house usually the sun will blast them because I'll get the brass things, and then after about 4 years, they'll start to look like the Statue of Liberty. It's like, oh, time to take those down and put some new ones up or polish them. I've done that before. But yeah, that's then they just go around and give you a ticket. It's like you gotta have your numbers visible on your house or at least your mailbox. Fuck that. I'm not doing it. So what crimes are you committing in your house that you don't want people to know what your address is?
So Sci-Fi Channel has a new thing.
What are they doing now?
They've basically created their own version of Adult Swim.
Okay.
It's called TZ Jeezy.
Okay.
It's like Sunday nights, and it has like some original programming and stuff they just like picked up from around the internet.
Okay.
Because like the Cyanide and Happiness, they did that. Oh fuck, what's it? Purgatony. About the guy who's like just like an office worker in purgatory, and he sucks at it.
Oh, okay. Is that the one that's in the lunchroom a lot?
Yeah.
You're always talking and weird shit's happening. Yeah.
But so that's on there. They have I think their one like big like original one's called Dallas and Robo, which is just about space truckers, but one of them's a robot, voiced by John Cena. And the other trucker is voiced by Kat Dennings, but she sounds a lot like the she sounds like a character from BoJack Horseman, the teen star who was always drunk. It's kind
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if they're doing that intentionally or unintentionally, but that's just what it reminded me of. All of the stuff is okay. Like Dallas and Robo, it's fine. I only saw the one episode. There's one called Dope Feed the Humans, which I don't know. It seemed very like early Adult Swim, like kind of like C Lab 2021 esque.
Okay.
Let's see other ones. Have to look it up.
So is this stuff any good or?
Some of it, it's all like okay, but
Okay.
nothing really stands out except for I'm trying to look for it, but the thing's scrolling all weird. Magical Girl Friendship Squad.
Magical Girl Friendship Squad?
Yes, that one is great. And it's only had like 60-minute episodes. I think they did it for like YouTube or something. So they're really short, but they've picked it up for this. It's basically like these girls have to like make rent, and then they're just like greeted by a magical red panda who ends up being like the goddess creator of the world, but like somebody's trying to kill them, and so they have to like become superheroes to keep her from getting killed from these weird demon people or whatever.
All right.
And yeah, it's funny. Like one of the parts, like they get their superpowers, and it's like the second episode, and they're kind of like they're just kind of using the superpowers to do mundane things. So like one girl is just like consuming all sorts of media, but the other girl's like, we need to clean up the hotel, we need to clean up the apartment, and she's like, no, and she's like, I dare you. And so they basically like are having a competition about how fast they can clean up the apartment, and then like the one crazier girl, she finishes cleaning up the apartment. It's like sparkling. It's so clean. She's like, "Fuck you, apartment! I win."
Ugh.
So that's the only one that really like stood out to me as being good. There's one that was fucking weird. It was like, I think it's Hell Den, where it's just like these weirdly drawn characters are sitting on a couch, and they're in hell, or it's a hell on Earth, and they're just watching like really fucking old cartoons, like 1920s cartoons.
Oh, Steamboat Willie type stuff.
Yeah, but like they're trying to make it kind of like a Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it's like doesn't necessarily work, but they're trying, I guess.
Well, at least they're doing something.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, I guess that stuff's like pretty low budget, and Sci-Fi obviously is not concerned about doing, momentous, important television anymore. So might as well.
More Battlestar Galactica.
Weird is that a bunch of the shows that are on here are produced by people that do shows for Adult Swim.
Oh, okay.
So there's I'm not sure if there's an intentional crossover or if they're just like picking up companies that maybe Adult Swim stop working with, or if this is all like under the same. I don't think it's under the same umbrella, because Adult Swim is like under Warner Media, and this is NBC Universal that's doing this.
Oh, okay.
Because that's like USA and Sci-Fi are owned by NBC Universal.
All right.
But
Check that out.
yeah, check it out. Yeah. At least check out an episode.
So we watched a movie this week. Watched the Siege of Jadaville, which was I watched this like before.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, it's because it's like, what is this? And it's like, oh, I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
And I watched it again. It's like, yeah, I can't believe. I mean, I know it's happened in like the early 60s.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I never thought that the Irish Army ever fought anyone. I never put that together. I mean, under the onus of the United Nations, of course.
Yeah.
But I never knew this story. And this is actually a really well done movie for.
Yeah, it's like a good action movie.
For it's like it's obscure subject matter and.
Yeah, I think it makes me want to read the book, because I wonder, because a lot of the like political, like intrigue stuff is very secondary to like their kind of main action movie thing, because it's really all the political stuff there is put there to like fuck these soldiers over.
Yeah.
Because it's very like a one-sided, like, these politicians are terrible, like, look how they're fucking these guys over. These guys just gotta pull it together and like survive, and like these politicians just don't get it, which is probably true. I don't how they present it here, it seems alright. Yeah, I was kind of bummed because I like Mark Strong and things, but he's such a fucking weasel and asshole in this movie.
Yeah, he was the guy, the Irish politician,
Yeah, he was.
Dr. O'Brien, that was
Yeah.
sent by Hammarskjöld to. It's like, you're gonna handle this, right? Yeah, this is your moment, and then it's a disaster.
Although it's weird, it's like they sell this movie as being like this could have been the powder keg that started off World War III. So I assume this was going to be like United Nations versus like communist forces, but no,
Yeah.
it's like it's the United Nations fighting mercenaries hired by a private company that's mining the Congo area.
Yes, and also Charles de Gaulle is.
Yeah, they're French
Congo.
Foreign Legion, which I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure what that means in this instance. If they're just like they're French soldiers, but they're just kind of dressed up as mercs because they don't want to be like officially French soldiers in the area or something. I'm not sure what's going on.
There was a lot of. See, where this happened was the time in this is set is when Belgium was pulling out of that area, because that was a colony. That was a colonial interest of Belgium, and they were leaving the country.
Okay.
And the initial reason UN troops were there was to basically have a peaceful transition of power, which of course didn't happen, because as soon as the Belgian government left, it created this power vacuum where these rebels, overpowered the people that were elected into power in that country, and I forget all the names. But essentially, this was your classic post-colonial power vacuum, and then you have a lot of not necessarily political interests, but economic interests from all around the world.
Yeah, well, like one thing they point out is like this is where all like the cobalt and uranium is being mined from. Like they said, like the uranium used in the Hiroshima bombs like came from here.
Right. Yeah. So. It's basically that part of the Congo, which that guy was trying to create. The guy was trying to make that a breakaway republic within the Congo called Katanga.
Okay, that's what I was going with.
Yeah, and because that's basically the only source of wealth in all of Congo is the Katanga region, because that's where all the uranium, there was titanium, copper, basically all your rare earth metals and uranium. At that time, it was the world's largest supply of uranium. And so this guy's just the real interest here is not like, oh, we want to be free or whatever. It's like, oh no, we just want to run. We want to run it like a blood diamonds thing.
Yeah.
And Jadotville was right in the middle of this. But yeah, so you had a lot of you have a lot of like economic interests, which tie into political interests, which were because the French did not want to decolonize, and the Belgians are really close to the French too, and they kind of do what the French say. And so there's the backstory to this is it's interesting, but the main story is just like, it's going to be like these guys are going to be laid siege to by 4,200 people in these weird wave attacks, and they're essentially going to hold them off until they run out of bullets, which is essentially why they had to surrender.
And this is like it's like an Irish contingent of the UN, and this and and they talk about like this is like nobody has had war experience whatsoever in this this platoon or what would it be, a battalion? I'm not sure. It'd be more than a platoon, but like what's above? I forget the structure. I think a battalion.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting how like all these people are trained, but like no one has experience.
Yeah, no one has combat experience because the Irish armies, except the British, they've never really successfully fought anyone. And when they were fighting the British, it was more of a loose affiliation of people that we might call terrorists, depending on how you look at it, what time and place it was. But yeah, so they're
so like they're dispatched to Jadotville.
Yeah.
To help kind of keep this situation in wraps as the power vacuum after the guy executes the democratically elected president.
Yeah.
And there's like a UN like storage bunker there, but they have like all this outdated weapons and stuff.
World War II weapons.
Yeah, they got like a Maxim machine gun in there. I read the bit of trivia. It's like that. This is the first battle to actually use the FAL. So everybody has FALs in this, even the French Foreign Legion guys. But
Yeah, everyone has FALs because it's a Belgian company. So everyone got. Let's see, what are some of the guns in this movie that you see? It's like or they have a Walther. The French guys use those, the pistols.
oh yeah,
And then somebody had a Browning high power, which I thought was a 1911, but I guess it's a Browning high power. And then you had the FNFAL, which is a devastating weapon. It's a big caliber gun.
yeah, 308.
Yeah, 308 caliber, fully automatic. Very long gun, very heavy gun. And then, of course, you had a lot of them had the Lee Enfield, Mark One, which was a World War II era rifle, and then their sniper guy had a Lee Enfield Mark One with a scope, which it seems like they need more of those sniper guys in this group. Of it, like stopping the people in the jeeps coming at them with the 50 calibers.
Yeah, some guys have like a Sten gun. Another guy has that sergeant guy has I can't remember what it is, but it's like he has a submachine gun, but it's got that big boxy like wire folding.
Oh, that's Carl Gustav.
Oh, okay.
There's a name for it. I don't know what it is. It's basically an automatic, just submachine gun.
Yeah.
Looks very World War II-esque.
Yeah.
Of course, they got Breen guns, which are
Oh yeah, the Bren guns.
devastatingly powerful. But the guys with the 50s on the Jeep, that seemed a little understated in the movie. It's like, oh, those guys would just be blasting these guys to bits, but it seems like we'd shoot at buildings and stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna ruin it here. It's like, so nobody. I mean, people get hurt, but nobody in the Irish side dies.
No.
But they portray it as them like they killed thousands of people, but
They killed 300, but yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah,
thousands.
but I just have no idea. That's why I almost want to read the book. It's like, is this how it happened? Because it seems like too much like an action movie. There's that one guy who's running and like he's getting shot at by the plane, and all that happens to him is he gets covered in a lot of dirt. There's one guy where a bomb, a mortar shell goes off, and he's in the foxhole, and they have to hurry up and dig him up because he's still alive, but he's gonna drown in the dirt if they don't uncover him. Which I've never seen that in a war movie before. That was interesting. It's I guess the blast would knock you unconscious and then cover you in dirt, but somehow you don't die from the blast. I guess that can happen. That's 1 in a million thing. But
yeah, well, it's just when the main character is sitting there and the mortar shell comes in and it hits right next to his foxhole, but it doesn't detonate.
Yeah.
Killed him. If that had gone, it was what are those called, 80-pound mortars or something? They were shooting big mortars at him.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it didn't go off, and they just throw sandbags around it. Whoa.
There's one part where it was really cool because I never saw it before, but it was really neat. And it's did they fucking do that? There's no way, because they have the Maxim machine gun mounted on the UN Jeeps.
Yeah.
And then they're getting strafed by the airplane, and they flip over the car. So the machine can just point straight up at the air, so he can shoot at the plane, and he hits it, so he keeps the plane away for a while. I was there's no fucking way they did that, but it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool looking. I don't know if anyone would have had the foresight to do that, but yeah. Yeah, that plane, by the way, is called a Foga Magister. And it's basically a training plane.
Yeah.
That was introduced in the 50s, but it was later modified by some countries to it had it could drop bombs, and they put machine guns in it. But it's a weird looking plane. It's a very 60s looking plane.
Yeah.
Because it's had the really thin body and the kind of straight wings with the fuel pods in the outside. But yeah, that plane actually did attack these guys. Now I don't know if people were standing in the middle of the getting shot at, but this plane actually did it dropped bombs a few times, and it strafed them with machine guns, but they couldn't keep it up long enough, I guess. I mean, those planes cost $70,000. So very, very 50s, 60s type of thing.
There's like a weird conspiracy because when that who's the guy who's like the secretary for the UN that gets shot down?
Oh, Dag Hammarskjöld, yeah.
Which I didn't know that happened. Like that seemed like a big thing that I'd never heard of.
Oh yeah, he got killed, and they don't know who did it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. It was like the weird trivia and conspiracy theories because in the movie, American, so they're implying that the Americans shot down the human secretary.
Well, I will tell you this: there's a whole Dag Hammarskjöld wormhole you can go down. Because Nick Kennedy was president then, and I don't know what their relationship was, but when he's found dead right outside the airport, and there's a picture of him, and there's an ace of spades like stuffed into his collar like a playing card. And back then, that was always that's still like a CIA hit thing. He like sends a message to people. It's like, but nobody knows if that was put there, if that fixed it, or if they were playing cards in the plane when it crashed and they happened to get blown around. Nobody knows. It's just kind of a weird thing that they've never been able to figure out. Because they do believe a plane shot the plane down, but they don't know if it was the plane that was involved in this attack or if it was something else. You know, then no one knows. But yeah, that's
And I was also kind of wondering. I was speculating that maybe like they just like whatever company that they used to do the digital effects, maybe that was just the F4 Phantom was like in their library. It's like, we can just pop this in. We don't have to do any work.
that would have been a state of the art brand new fighter plane at that time. And how you would get it there and get it back, I don't know. But like I said, I just briefly know that there's like a few weird things about him. And it's always America now that did it, like, because we're becoming the new bad guys, like throughout the continuum of his. Well, from 1945 on, we've become like, this force of evil in the world. It's like, well, is there any proof of this, or is it a fun story to sit around and tell?
Well, we did disrupt plenty of governments for our own purposes, and we didn't care who died because of it. But so did the Russians. But
and assassinating the UN Secretary General in a third world country when the United Nations is in New York, it seems kind of like, well, we don't have to go to those links. We can just do it here. And we don't care what the UN says anyway, so why would we didn't care back then. There was a little thing starting up in Southeast Asia about the time this happened that later became the Vietnam War. And so...
And I saw that like a lot of the actors, I thought there was a lot of good people. And I was like, I never seen them, but apparently a lot of these people were in that Arthropoid movie or Anthropoid.
Yeah, Anthropoid. Yeah. I mean the main guy is.
What's that about? Killing Hitler? Or what's that about?
No, that's the guys that in Czechoslovakia that killed Heydrich.
Oh yeah.
And they basically got surrounded in a church and just killed because they were getting attacked by waves of German soldiers, because Heydrich was like, what did he was like he was someone high up in the Nazi thing. He was the guy who chaired the Wannsee conference and all. And he's not a terrible human being. Someone who would cry if music, because he was like a violinist or something. Like he wanted to be a music guy. And he would cry if someone would play music beautifully, but then he'd just have women and children murdered, like in camps. It's like one of those weird guys that, very strange looking man too, strikingly tall with a very, he looked like a Roman emperor, like from the past. But yeah, not related to this movie anyway. But yeah, our Anthropoid was, I think it was made by the same company.
Okay, that makes sense.
Who's the people? But I recognize, some of these actors. Of course, they're all Irish actors, but you never get to hear them like, oh, this is how they actually talk, because they're always doing American stuff.
What is Mark Strong?
Mark Strong?
Yeah, what's his nationality?
He's British.
Okay.
Yeah, London. So yeah.
So I can't. I'm not
Merlin in the Kingsman, right?
What's that?
Is he Merlin in the Kingsman?
Yeah.
I recognize him from. Okay, that's what I thought.
But I like I don't know. I'm not one to judge Irish accents, but I found his to be like I sensed a problem with it, but I can't explain what it is.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just how that guy talked, and I didn't realize that. It's like, oh,
He's
like,
English. It's whatever that means. This was the Richie Smith was the guy who directed it. This was his first movie.
oh, he did. He was like a. I mean, this is his first movie, but he did a lot of music video stuff. So he's
Yeah, but this was his first like feature length
Yeah.
film. It's based directly off a book too.
yeah.
Um,
Have you read it?
no, but I probably will.
Okay.
It's called The Siege of Jadaville by Declan Power. Because the story, it's like the main story was cool, and I liked the action and stuff. But this made mistakes initially. Because remember when he ordered like the first siege or the first attack, he ordered half his men over to another side. He's like, they're going to hit us from there, and no one showed up.
Yeah.
And his sergeant was starting to doubt him a little bit and question him. And, but then he, they did carry the day. It was too bad that they had to surrender at the end. But I mean, they just didn't have any more bullets to shoot.
Yeah.
What are they supposed to do? Go out there and swing axes? Would have been weird.
Attach
Might have-
bayonets.
That might have scared the guy some more. But
Well, there's that one part where like they blow up the guys that are charging them, and like they steal all their weapons
yeah,
because they're
yeah,
just
like,
running out of
they
ammo.
shell casings and wrap explosives around it and make a impromptu claymore, just throwing brass cases at everyone. Yeah,
But yeah, it's like because the way they make it seem, it's like what nobody dies, but it makes it seem like it was like a 3-day long battle where they just like have to keep reinforcing, but they just can't get any reinforcements to, except for and their water gets poisoned, but then a helicopter drops off some water to them.
well, the thing with the water, the helicopter didn't get shot down either.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that happened. Because one of the guys pointed out, like, if they had rockets, they would have just been rocketing them into those buildings. Like they wouldn't wait. But the water, they asked for water and ammunition, and they said they wanted to get some of their men out. And they said, well, we can do water, but the helicopter was being fired at so much that the guys are just like push the water and supplies out. It's like, we got to go. Helicopters, especially of that era, it's only a matter of time before you hit something that's going to bring it down. But the water they got was the Indian Army had provided it to them, and they just emptied out fuel to fuel the helicopter, and they filled those barrels with the water,
Oh, yeah.
which contaminates it. And so it's like, well, we can't drink this. I mean, we'll slowly eat our guts out. So yeah, that was what happened there.
There's also the incident with the Indian Army just like stopping. They needed to stop some ruffians, and they decided to throw grenades into a building and kill like 30
Killed
innocent.
like 30 people indiscriminately.
And that one guy's like, "So you killed innocent people?" And that dude's like, "Yes."
Grenades will do that if you throw them. They will kill people. The same guy who told him to be really aggressive, and then he was like, "What, you killed these people?" And this guy's looking at him mystified. Yes, because this is what you wanted. No, because I'm two-faced. I'm a professor of history. I'm supposed to, yeah. Yeah, the political side of this was pretty ugly. And the stuff with his commanding general, I'm willing to bet that scene at the end of the movie where he punched his general probably didn't happen. Maybe it did. I don't know. But I'm guessing that was more of a symbolic thing. Because these guys were not treated like heroes until much, much later.
Yeah.
Because they surrendered. It was like, oh, well, they surrendered. It's like, yeah, they completely exhausted all their ammunition. But it's not treated like that. And this is why we don't work closely with the UN. This is the kind of shit they do. This stuff is, I read that book much more recently, that Shake Hands with the Devil by that Canadian general that talked about, what was that movie? That was the Hotel Rwanda. The Canadian Armed Forces were all over Rwanda trying to stop that. And they could stop it. but they kept getting told, no, back off here, don't do this, don't be aggressive. And he's like, these people are shooting at us and they're murdering women and children everywhere. There are bodies floating down the creeks, and they're like, well, we're going to handle this. And that's because so when he came back from Canada, he resigned and wrote this book and said, yeah, this is why the UN sucks. Because they're too busy. Like, we don't want to offend anyone's culture. They're killing women and children with machetes. Well, we're going to work this out. It's like, no, you shoot people that do, that's kind of. So I've heard things like this before, completely different. That was, was when Rwanda happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so this is like 40 years later, and it's like, they're still playing the same games. Now, I don't know if that's just the military viewpoint of the UN, or if the UN actually acts that way, or they act that way, but they're not doing it out of malice. They're doing it out of ignorance. I don't know. But this is why, they don't rely on us for a lot of stuff. It's like, you want us to do what? Wait? No, that's not what we do. We don't wait. We didn't have all these guys put on green shit and give them guns so they could sit around. That's what the French are supposed to do.
No, we want them to sit around where the action is. Oh, they're going to do anything? No, they just sit around and make it look like we attempted to do something.
Yeah, we're going to give them plastic helmets and white painted armored vehicles that just say, shoot me. It's a peacekeeping force. It's like, yeah, it's what happens once the peace is over. What are they supposed to do? I don't know. Maybe they're all great.
In this movie, they're not portrayed.
No, they're just political weasels that are like 100 men are going to just die.
Yeah, because like in this movie, it's like, these guys weren't recognized for anything till like 2005.
Yeah.
So essentially, their bravery was seen as cowardice under the UN, and even that O'Brien guy, he got like a government job in like the prime minister cabinet or something like that. So he just got promoted essentially.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's the story. You got to pick a story to tell, and that's the one that people are going to like have more in common with that, because like, the soldier's just the everyday guy. He's just doing what he's told, and he's just, he's not, he didn't fuck up. He was doing the right thing the entire time.
Yeah, because Pat Quinlan is your main character, and he's a real life hero, and so you can you want to make the audience root for the hero.
Yeah. I do like the French Foreign Legion guy leader. He was interesting.
Yeah,
because he's like charismatic and evil at the same time.
Yeah, he's like, I respect your fight, but you can't fight anymore. You just don't have, there's nothing.
And there's that good scene where like he comes back from like the talk, and he's like, be honest with me. It's like, should we surrender? And everyone's like, no. It's like, I doubt that ever happened, but it's a nice scene. So
yeah, it's a nice kind of like, well, what do you guys think?
And they're like, no, we shouldn't surrender. And he's like, well, good thing I don't have to listen to you guys. And then he surrenders for them.
Yeah, that guy's real name was, I'm not going to mangle this French name, but Roger Falcu.
Okay, yeah.
And he's like a hero of the French Foreign Legion, and seen as kind of a guy that's like to be admired.
Huh.
I mean, he was... he was honored, won a lot of military honors for what he did, because he was basically just a worldwide mercenary / Foreign Legion guy. So because you never know with those guys, whether they're acting officially or they're acting officially unless they get caught, then they're unofficial, or what their status is.
Yeah.
I think the French play that game where it's only official till you get caught, and then who you are. And I mean, we do that shit too.
Yeah, everybody does that shit.
Yeah, it's not like
you got caught, we have nothing to do with you.
What were these guys? Navy SEAL? What are the Navy SEALs again? You'll have to remind me. Yeah. Oh yeah, all those guys you caught that were all like Delta Force people. Yeah, they're out. They quit being Delta Force. We don't know. They're just doing random stuff on their own.
Yeah, they're all independent contractors now.
Yep, independent contractors. Oh, they were brought there on a submarine. Wow, in privately owned submarine, privately owned nuclear submarine. But yeah, I like this movie. It was well put together. It kind of balanced the action with the story. Story is not wildly compelling outside of the action, but
No.
it kept you interested. So it's not like a perfect movie, but again, it's a movie about something so obscure that most Americans have never heard about.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, it kind of draws you in. It's like, oh, these guys did this.
Yeah, it's kind of those movies where you watch it and you're like, wait, did this actually happen? And that's what gets you interested in it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, some of it happened.
Essentially, this is what happened. And like I said, because when it started off, and I watched it a while back, but it's like, oh, the Irish army's going somewhere. I didn't think Ireland had an army. Like, I really had no idea. I don't think of them. I mean, I guess they're an independent country. They should have an army, but I just never thought of like, oh yeah, I guess they do.
I like some of their ranks where it's like a weird, like kind of like a squiggle instead of like the typical chevrons.
Yeah, they put a lot of because weren't they giving their marching orders in Irish?
I think maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought they were not in battle, but like in the formal, like we're gonna march around and clean uniforms stuff at the airport. I thought they were, because the Irish have a different name for everything in Irish, but then they have
Are you talking about Gaelic or what do you mean?
Whatever the language of Ireland is.
I thought it was Gaelic. I believe that's Ireland.
That could be. I watched what was it? I watched something about it on YouTube once. I went down a Irish language rabbit hole, and it's like, oh, that sounds like they're like like how the elves talked in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It's a very magical sounding language.
Yeah, it sounds ancient when you hear people talk. It's still taught in schools, so like everybody knows Gaelic, but nobody uses it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, I can do this.
It's more of like a cultural thing.
Yeah, because that's all the names of their leaders have. They use the Irish. Because like the prime minister is called Taoiseach or something. The whole language sounds like that.
Yeah,
and they do broadcasts of it in Ireland. Like you can watch the news in Irish, and it's like, oh, this is weird. And all their signs have to be, like you have to have the dual, like you have to have the French and English signs around. Well, you had a lot of them in Michigan. Like when you buy toilet paper or cleaners, we have it in English and then we have it in French.
Yeah.
Because they're making it for Canada too, and they're not going to like have separate bottles. So, and then we got like some road signs and stuff and that. And if you go down south, everything's in English or Spanish. But in Ireland, like they have the name of the place in English and then the name of it in Irish. And it looks like, just like a bunch of, they're using Roman characters, but they're put together in a strange way. And there's lots of little symbols around them. It's like, is that a magic spell? Will a leprechaun come from the ground if I say it right and give me 3 gold coins? That's what it looks like. But yeah, so cool movie.
Yeah, it was done a while ago too. Like I never heard of it.
2016, yeah.
It's 2016.
Yeah, well, I think that's when Netflix picked it up. Won a bunch of awards in Ireland. But I guess that book was pretty popular too, so. Because Declan Power is like, he was a soldier in the Irish Army, but he's kind of like the, because he's written a few other books, mainly articles. I think this was his only like book length thing, but he's kind of like the, who would the guy be? Like the Tom Clancy of Ireland, where he like he knows things and he writes stories and he talks to people, but he was actually in the army for a long time. So popular book over there, and it's a movie that looked cool.
Yeah,
and a movie about something that was engaging and exciting that I'd never heard of.
And
3 years ago, what the Siege of Jadotville was about, I don't know. Sounds like something in South Africa to me. That's about as far as I'd get with it. And
it's fun to have a movie with a bunch of Irish accents.
Yeah, those are always fun in combat. Fuck. Because when they say fuck, it almost sounds like fook.
Yeah.
Like it's real close. Why did the guy use the Bren gun as a long-range sniping rifle? Was it just because it had a heavy barrel?
Yeah. I think like sometimes those machine guns have like, because like an M249 and an M16, like they both fire 5.56, but because of the barrel is heavier and longer on the M249, like it technically has more range than the M16, but you're not really going to be firing it accurately, but you
Right.
can get it to that distance
Yeah,
farther than you can with an M16, even though it's
you
gonna
can
be less
walk it in.
yeah, exactly.
Well, he just used a single shot.
Yeah. I don't know. There is that myth about like about Bren guns where they had to make them less accurate so people would use them appropriately as machine guns or some shit. But,
Okay.
but really, it was just like they just had a really heavy barrel, so like that's helped with the accuracy, especially with the metallurgy at that time. Like,
Yeah.
so
So it'd be like the equivalent of a bull barrel on a rifle.
yeah,
Which is weird because it's one of those open. You know, it's an old gun when it fires from the open breech. Like those open breech firing guns. That's always interesting. It's like, oh, is he going to roll that forward? Oh, no. Yeah, that was open breech.
or always like the sights are on the side of the fucking gun.
Yeah. Flip those up and.
'Cause
Sometimes those work. I mean, if you know what you're doing, but it takes a lot of practice.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it works the same way. It just seems weird and unnatural.
Well, all those old school peep sights where it has the range on them, that always seemed to me like, well, this was more hope than. But then you'll see a guy like go fire an old school like giant hunting rifle like for the African bush, and he'll hit like a metal plate 1,000 yards away because he's just lobbing it in. He's just grenading it. He's shooting it way high, and then it just goes and hits the target, and he's using those scopes. But then you realize, well, that guy's an expert at this. He's fired this gun probably 50,000 times. So yeah, that's. Yeah, because I remember I've had some AK-47s and stuff, like they have that sliding sight on them where it ramps it up.
Yeah.
It has like meters on it. It's like, well, this is just hope. AK-40, the whole gun rocks like a jackhammer and that's in semi-auto.
You can fire up to 1,200 meters. Like you can't even really see a person at 1,200 meters.
Yeah, you can certainly shoot that far, but you're not going to hit anything accurately. I mean, 1,200 meters is like, what point are you taking spin drift of the Earth into effect? Where
I think you have to get like up to a mile to really do that.
okay.
So, to get the Coriolis effect.
Yeah, because I know that's a thing. It's like we got to shoot where the bullet's gonna be
Yeah.
based on time and distance. And I hear stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is madness. Fire a missile.
Well, at this time and at this point in the travel of the bullet, the Earth has rotated this far, so I have to accommodate for that.
Yeah.
I was watching one video where a guy, it was he was an army sniper, and he's like looking at like sniper depictions in movies, and there's one thing I never heard of before. He's like, it was from the that Will Smith movie they did recently where he has like the Gemini Man.
Okay.
There's like a sniper shot he does in that movie, and like he has this book he pulls out and he's writing stuff in it, and he's like, that's the dope book. And I'm like, what's the dope book? And it's like data of previous encounter. So it's basically you have like data from like when you've taken a shot, so you know like basically how the rifle works in different situations. It's called a dope book.
Huh.
And also when he's like talking about like the shot, he's like the guy's basically like doing trigonometry, but like on the fly in his head. It's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's a crazy world.
Yeah.
Well, I told you about those guys at work that the machinist guys that were extreme range rifle guys. Like they made their own bullets and guns, and they were trying to like, I mean, you're just like hitting paper at this incredible. Like this guy had one in his car. but he didn't have the scope fixed on it because he said, well, it'll never stay accurate if you leave them together and transport them. But it literally, this thing looked like a rifle with a fucking telescope on it. And it fired a bullet where the outside of it was this big, and then it necked down to like something like maybe a 30-06 shell. And he said, yeah, if when you're rifling the barrel, if you don't get the spin right in the barrel, the bullet, that thing hits so hard. There's so much force behind that because it's necked down so far. It's like if you don't get the rifling just right, the bullet disintegrates as soon as it leaves the barrel. Because you know that that's really frustrating because you don't know whether you hit the target or not or the bullet disintegrated. Because it's like either it's a miss or the bullet exploded, and that counts against you differently in this kind of rifle shooting that they were doing. And it's like, oh my god, because he would go down to like weird places all over the country and out in the Nevada desert, and these guys were just making these guns. But they had a specific purpose because not all of them were like, what's the farthest you can go? Because the 50 caliber essentially like answered that question. But these guys were doing like, how accurate can you be? How accurate can you really be at 1,000 yards? And it's like these guys were trying to answer that question. But they were all machinists and they were all crazy smart, and they were building really weird ass guns. You've graduated to the next level when you're building a gun. I said, what kind of paperwork do you have to do for that? He's like, oh, you got to file a bunch of government paperwork. They want to know that you have them, even though it's like $25 to $100 a shot for some of these guns because they're all custom made bullets. It's like, yeah. And then that doesn't include the leather suit you have to buy and have made that holds your body completely still. So you're basically like, guys are pulling like those cinch straps all over your arms and legs and torso. So essentially all you have is like your finger, your arm, like this. Because everything, he says a heartbeat will fuck you up. Yeah. Because the gun is fired from a reciprocating rest. Like you're not even, all you're doing is putting your arm around it. And I don't know what it will. I forget what that was called. The guy gave it a name, but it's just like, this just sounds like madness to me. It's a lot of math. Shooting a attack at 1,000 yards is like, that's not even possible. It's like, oh, it's possible. It takes a lot of practice.
A lot of money.
Yeah, and that's the thing is these guys are spending a lot of money on $500 set of dies for bullets and stuff like that. They can only weigh so much, and you got to account for when you.
Did they ever get good enough for like wherever they're doing this? They got sponsors.
I think these guys were hobbyists. This was like the amateur stuff. Where there were big guys that were like professionals, but those guys, I mean, it's kind of like what you said about Formula One. It's just like a game for rich people. Sort of what these were guys that were like the B team for that. Because a lot of people that did it were like surgeons and dentists and stuff like that. They just paid for the best gun they could have built, which could cost up to $100,000, and then they just go out and shoot it obsessively. Until they were the guys that were, they were going to the NRA 1,000-yard shoots down in, what's that Marine base down south?
Which one?
The famous one.
Paris Island?
Camp Lejeune or
Camp Lejeune's in North Carolina, yeah.
That's
the biggest base down there.
Well, one of those has
except for the New Orleans one, but
one of those has
Camp Lejeune's the big is the big one.
That one of those has a firing range. It brings like once a year people can sign up and they have a big thing down there, and that's got the firing range where you can just do incredibly long shots.
Now, I heard about the because there's one guy he was a combat marksman instructor for our unit, and to be that you basically gotta like go do a bunch of crazy shit and shoot lots of things, basically have fun. But they were, they were at the air base down in California. I can't remember what it's called.
Big one?
Yeah. It's like next to Camp Pendleton. It's got a cool name. Why can't I remember it? Fuck.
Barksdale?
No. See, I don't have to know these things anymore, so I don't bother remembering. Just put California Marine Corps Air Base. It should come up.
Hold on, everyone. This is about to get interesting.
Miramar, that's it.
Oh, Miramar. Okay.
Anyway, so they have like a really cool range down there. So usually when you go to range, you have the target set up at the end of it, and then like you have to like move to the different range markers because you shoot at different ranges, different lengths. Usually the 300, 200, 300, and 500. That's what you usually do for a marksmanship training. And but at the Miramar one, you just go to this shooting area, and then the targets are set up at the different ranges, and they just pop up for you.
Okay.
And they're digital, so you shoot them, and you get immediate readout of like where you hit it, and it pops back down. And like you basically just don't gotta do shit. It's all automated, which is fucking cool.
That is cool.
So whenever like we do range week, it's like you gotta work the pits, so you're like throwing those targets up and stuff. But then when you get to shoot, it's like, oh, cool. It's like an 8-hour day of just shooting. But then your 8-hour day of just throwing a target up and marking stuff, and then potentially in danger. Because I guess that was one of the reasons we couldn't shoot. We had a range really close to our reserve base, and it was like literally like 30 minutes away, but it was a private place, and we had to like basically kick everyone out of there to use it. But I guess they declared it like unsafe for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess at some army. So like the one we went to like Minneapolis base to shoot once, and the pit area is like it's enclosed. It's like in its own like housing area, but like the target's in there and you throw it up, and it's because like at some army base like there was a ricochet and like just domed a dude.
Ooh.
So like then it required all army bases need to have covered like pit areas for the range. So
yeah, that's
but it's really hard to tell when somebody shot your target, because normally when you work the pits, you're just watching a big sand barge.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for you were just waiting for the sand to like pop and move. It's like, all right, we got to hit on target. It's like, pull it down, mark it, put it back up. But when you have like a building in your way, it's like, this is fucking impossible. Like you're looking up at the target, like through the slit where the target comes through, and you're waiting for like paper to fly off. Like that's how you're looking for like, we got to hit on target, pull it down.
Huh. Doesn't sound very effective.
No. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. We had a range day, and because we were going right from range to an AT for 2 weeks, and so we got to shoot first, and we never had to work the pits. So that was good for that one. But also that whole weekend was fucked because like everything went so slow that almost nobody got to like pretty much only the first group that shot to qualify actually got time to qualify. Like almost like half the unit never got to qualify.
Huh.
That was stupid. Well, because like when we did the range at the shooting place that was like 30 minutes away, we would get up at like 2 a.m. and just get everything to go and like and then spend 30 minutes to drive to the shooting range, set things up, and then like we're already in it by like 10 a.m. we're already shooting and we're already in practice. And then for this thing, we like got up at like 7 a.m. and then took a 4-hour bus ride to Minneapolis and then started setting things up. And by the end of the first day, we just started to do a BZO, Battle Site Zero, or Battle Zero, whatever.
Yeah.
And then like the next day, it was like almost half the day was just spent like, sighting in the optics. And then it was like third day, we were finally shooting, but we were just shooting practice. Because you get like 3 practice rounds and then you actually qualify.
Oh, okay.
But anyways.
All right. Well, that's all I have for this week.
All right.
So this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
And this is Colin. Goodbye, America.